Audiobook lovers, you're in for a treat. Today's guest has one of those voices you've probably heard hundreds, maybe not thousands of times across genres. Andrew Eiden is a classically trained actor and now one of the most in-demand voices in audiobook narration. For my fellow romance book readers, you may know him better as Teddy Hamilton, and you've likely heard his voice from so many of the popular books out there. So today we're getting a behind-the-scenes look into what it's like living with two names, voicing various genres, and navigating the fandom. Welcome, Andrew.
Hello. Yes, I get a lot of things where people go, "Oh yeah," and then Andrew Eiden is doing the thing, and then they go, "Did you know that Andrew Eiden is Teddy Hamilton?" And then people go, "Wait, what?" And you go, "Oh yeah, that's right."
Full transparency, when we were communicating, I was going, "Wait, oh, it is the same person," because I think it wasn't until fairly recently that I actually started looking into Instagram and social media and all the things where we can see the people and get to know the people and not just listen to the books.
Same person, but I've been out, let's say, for a long time, and it's always been something that has been like, I don't know if I should be, and I also don't know if I even need it at all. I was like told a long time ago, like I did my first audiobook in 2012 as Andrew Eiden, and then I also did my first Teddy Hamilton book in 2012. So like we've been on this journey together this whole time, but they told me really early on, you got to do because it was like in those days, who knows what was going to happen with my career? Who knows where I was going to hit and where I was going to land? And sometimes, like in the older days, if you had too many like romance or erotica books on your docket, then like they might not want to hire you to do, the kids' books, or certainly like the Christian books or things like that. The publishers might not want somebody who has a lot of that on their Audible page. But then I've really not actually had any trouble, but also maybe I haven't had that much trouble because I have kind of always had this slightly more balanced spread of anything under the greater romance umbrella just goes to Teddy. So even books that Andrew's like, I probably could have read that one. That one wasn't too spicy, but whatever. I've just decided to say anything romance goes to Teddy and anything else goes to Andrew.
And on your Andrew side, there have been romance books
Yeah.
on there.
Well, yeah, you got
right?
The Deal and this El
Yeah.
Kennedy like hitting right now.
All the off-campus.
Yeah, that was Andrew Eiden. But that's because at the time I was a little bit more discerning of like, I'll do the books that, are low heat as Andrew and then do the other. But then like after a while, and I feel it this way about El Kennedy, a little bit with Alyssa Adams too, with the bromance book clubs, or some of the ones I've done through Penguin Random House, where like I do them as Andrew Eiden because like they've asked me and they didn't like want it to be. They didn't want me to be like ashamed of it, so that I hide it. But at this point, Teddy's has more click value than Andrew Eiden does, to where if you want that extra boost of, oh, it's El Kennedy and it's Teddy Hamilton, hell yeah, like that'll be an automatic click for some people that I didn't realize was going to be a thing early on. And it was once I started to realize it that then I just started lobbing everything under Teddy as much as I could.
So let's rewind a little bit for your journey, because for those that perhaps have not followed you and didn't know that you were the same person and you started in 2012, can you share a little bit about your journey and how you came to this point that you're at now?
I was thinking about, there's this moment. So I was just inducted into the Audible Hall of Fame, right? This is like,
yes.
There's like, I don't know, there's like 20 people or something so far. They've only done it once before. And some of the people who are in this Hall of Fame with me are like people who, when I was first starting, were like, my heroes. And here's a good example. When I first started, I got a book because some producers went to my sister's wedding, and I was the MC of my sister's wedding reception. And so I entertained them on a microphone for 4 hours, and then they came up to me afterward and they were like, hey, audition for us. and they got this like Harper book in that was a nonfiction book by Stephen Protho called The American Bible, and they said, come audition for it. And so I auditioned. They liked me. So my first audition, Harper says, yeah, give this guy the book. So I do it. While I'm recording that book, I start talking to the producers, and they say, hey, what do you do right now? And I was like, I was working at the Griffith Observatory as a theater tech for their planetarium show. And she was like, hold on a second, you know computery stuff? And I was like, yeah, I know computery stuff. And she was like, I can train you how to run a Pro Tools session. And like, you're a great narrator already, but you're also an actor. I was used to be on a TV show and stuff. So she was like, I just have you be an engineer director. So I just need to learn how to run a session, and then I can also like coach the actors through their acting. And I said, great. She said, I'll pay you whatever they pay you at the observatory. I said, okay, cool. So then that started me. This is 2012, right? And so I was then working at this studio, Dion Audio, with the late great Bob Dion, and like working with some of the top name audiobook narrators, like working on 2 books a day practically, because I would take like morning shifts and night shifts to make more money. And then like there was also an in-house casting director there, so then he would be like, hey, I got a book that you'd probably be good at, you want to audition for it? And I say, okay. And then I would get it. So then I would like, I kept building this narrator side too. One time the Dion's threw this like big party, and they had a bunch of people come, and some people were coming from New York over, and they were trying to like kind of give them the full treatment. And I was just like a worker. I was just an hourly worker for them at that point. And they said, hey, there's this woman, Barbara Rosenblatt, who needs a ride back to the airport. Will you drive her to the airport? And I said, okay. And this is Barbara Rosenblatt, like classic audiobook narrator, been doing it for years. She's like one of the top names. You'll see her in movies and TV shows all the time. So she's like a person. And I drove her to the airport, and we like hit it off. It was fun. We had a good time. And then like we stopped at Carl's Jr., got some Carl's Jr. before I dropped her off to the LAX. And then off she went. So then this past couple months, I was inducted into the Audible Hall of Fame, of which Barbara Rosenblatt is a member. I'm over in New York, I'm in Houston, and I go to this place that's a really neat little Japanese restaurant, and I see her, and I go, Barbara Rosenblatt? And she said, yeah. And I said, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but my name's Andrew Eiden, and I drove you to the airport once. And she was like, I don't remember you. And I was like, well, that's okay. It was like Tuesday. And she was like, sorry, but like, hi, how's it going? Nice to see you. And I was like, yeah. I was like, it was through the Dion's. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I remember that time. I just don't remember our drive. And I said, yeah. She said, well, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm being inducted into the Audible Hall of Fame. And she looked at me and she said, so you're telling me that like 10 years ago, you were just a gopher that drove me to the airport, like to give me the treatment? And I said, yeah. She said, and now I've been invited by Audible to come to this party tonight to celebrate you being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I said, yes. And she went, good job, kid. And I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing. That's the coolest thing to hear. Like, you want that story so bad. It like actually happened to me. It's super cool. So I think it's a pretty good, right? It's a pretty good little journey.
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody wants a good girl.
There's so many different things from that. Yeah. So many different nuggets of just saying yes to things that opened up in front of you. Right.
Yeah.
And you never know where the journey takes you. You didn't really plan to be in audio narration, and just different things lined up and different people. And here we are.
You know, I was thinking about how I got here, and I've always been a theater person. I've always been pretty good at Shakespeare, and in a lot of theater, there's a much more text-based performance. You're performing a story slightly more than like when I do on-camera work. On-camera work is more like Marlon Brando being in the moment, and like the words that were written don't really matter. Whereas, you know, in a play, or certainly with Shakespeare, you want to respect the text as much as possible. My my great grandmother was an author, and she was actually a pretty successful author. She wrote a story called Caddy Woodlawn that it was like one of those competitors to Little House on the Prairie or something, like right around the same time. And like a lot of my family has always sort of held up this kind of mythology of our my great grandmother, and the story of Caddy Woodlawn. My niece is named Caddy after that, and every single one of the females in my family is named Caroline after the woman who was actual Caddy Woodlawn. So like, it's a big thing. Book, this author and these writings that she did is a big mythological part of my family. And then also, I don't know how I have, but I've just always been such a hopeless romantic. Like, whenever my friends used to always make fun of me that I was like what do they call it when you jump from one relationship to another? There's not a lot of like, it's like a serial monogamist, that I've always been a serial monogamist. As opposed to like going and playing the field or sowing my wild oats, I've always just been like, I'd rather have a girlfriend. I'd rather, like get to know somebody. And I think I'm just a romantic, which I think is the reason why. So my relationship to text and acting, my relationship to books, and then my hopeless romanticness, I think leads me to being actually pretty well suited to do this work.
People are not surprised then, like if you tell friends or people that learn what you do, right?
No, nobody's surprised. I got my first agent when I was 11 years old. And it's because I went to this drama festival when I was in 8th grade, and we won first place. And then there was this like salute to the winners, because it was the DTASC, which is, anybody who knows, any Southern California person knows DTASC, which is the Drama Teachers Association of Southern California. And I won this thing, and they did this salute to the winners, and there was like an agent there that then picked me up, and it wasn't even 8th grade, it was 6th grade. So I got an agent that then my second audition was for a show called VR Troopers, and I booked it, which then meant that my agent was like, "Oh, we got a hot one here," like, because they said, "Let's see if this kid can make us any money." And then the second thing they sent me out on, I made them money. So then they were like, "Get this kid out there all the time." And then I started like I probably did like commercials and TV acting for like 10 years or something till I was in my 20s. And there's never been a time in my life where my friends in like, in school, or my buddies haven't always kind of known that I did this. I also did this other thing where I would go and audition and be like involved in a professional career in acting. And like, for my actor friends, they were always like, "Well, how do I get into that?" But also for half of my other friends who weren't even actors, they'd just be like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, you do like the acting thing, right? I saw you on TV. That was super cool," And
Yeah.
now the thing that I
So,
get
yeah.
is it will be like, "Hey, I was talking to my friend, and she said I told her that I was friends with Teddy Hamilton, and she was like lost her shit because she knows who you are." A lot of that kind of, because like romance is huge, man. It's everywhere, and like,
Yeah.
and audiobooks are becoming bigger, and I'm one of the dudes that are put into the spotlight in this genre. I went to the airport the other day. I was
So,
at the airport,
yeah.
and there was this, and like, I wasn't even there for a book thing. I was there for a wedding. I was in Arizona, and I was getting in the, and then all of a sudden I'm waiting in line at the American check-in, and some woman opens up this thing down the way, and she like waves me over, and she goes, "Come on down here." I was like, "Oh, okay, here." Me and my wife go walking down over there. She goes, "I can check in here." And we're like, "Oh, cool, okay." So when I start checking in and bringing all my bags for her, then she goes, "Hey, anybody ever tell you look just like Teddy Hamilton?" And I went, "What?" Like, sorry, I couldn't help it. Her name was Dawn. I'll never forget her. But she clocked me in the wild, and that was crazy. So it's like this thing, Teddy Hamilton thing, is a real thing.
Teddy Hamilton really is a thing. So, okay, so we met at Spicy Reads, right?
Yeah.
And that's how our conversation came up of like, hey, Teddy, would you want to come talk with me? Because there was clearly a line. There were people that wanted to come talk to you, there were people that wanted to meet you. It is a huge fandom, as you were mentioning. And at
Yeah.
some points, you could call it hero worship, right? Just like people flock and say, oh my gosh, Teddy, and all the things. That looks very different for male narrators versus female narrators,
Well,
even in
yeah.
the same
Yeah.
book, in the same space.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that a little bit and what it has been
Yeah.
like for you?
It's been, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of female friends in this industry. I'm part of a group text thread called Whore Island. I didn't come up with that name, but it's something where we all kind of vent to each other about what it is, but it's three women and me. So I'm the only dude in this thing. And one of the things that they will vent about often is just the work that they will put into a book, and then like the male narrator will like breeze in late and behind and like also asking for three times as much money, and then the narrators, I mean, the fandom will just go, oh my god, he was amazing, and like never even mention the woman. It's hard to be, because I'm that guy, right? I'm the one who's doing that, and it's not my fault. I'm not doing it on purpose, but I'm certainly benefiting from it. One of the things I always try to wrap my head around it. You heard this term, the female gaze and all this. This is a thing that like blew my mind when I first started
Yeah.
hearing about it, which was just the concept of like there's the object and then there's the subject. And I always knew objectification as a bad thing, because that's like men objectifying women is a nasty thing, because then all we want is their boobs to jiggle boobily, and like that's the male gaze. But in the in this realm of romance is predominantly, you can't say that it's only this, but it is predominantly a female led industry, a female led genre. The main portion of the writers are female. There's every once in a while you get a Nicholas Sparks that'll pop in, but like most everybody is a female, and most of the readers, there's a big push, I think, recently also to get like men to read more romance, to like, husbands need to understand their wives a little bit better or whatever. But for the most part, it's a form of entertainment that women engage in with each other, in which case then the woman is the subject, and the man is the object. And like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with it. It's really hard because I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, and I certainly don't want to. Like, the only thing that we can do as narrators is just insist on things like equal pay. To just say, like, I don't want to get paid more than my female cohort here, because that's unfair to her. Half the time she has to do more work than I have to do. And also, half of the reason why you like me is because of how well I look through her eyes, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So let's all just be even. The problem is that everybody wants to grab as much as they can, and so then you get some guys who will come in with really, really high rates, and then in order to balance that, then the author or the publisher will want to not spend as much on the co-narrator. But I think, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. The hero worship is real. You can do
Yeah.
nothing wrong. You can do
Yeah.
no wrong
Yeah. So in the
until you do
hero
something
worship
wrong.
space, like as you are in person, right, at book events or at whatever the event might be, there's a persona, right? There are women
Yeah.
that are objectifying. There are, I assume, times where you have been uncomfortable potentially as a person and people around you, or is it,
You know,
I
I
guess, how do you
will.
navigate the
I
persona in person?
I've heard horror stories. I've had people. There's the parasocial relationship where somebody thinks that we're friends. And it's not that like we couldn't be friends. It's just that like they listen to me daily, and this is the first time I've ever met them or something. That that it's hard to meet them where they're at just because I don't know them. I've never met them before, and they know they're listening to this interview right now and being like, haha, yeah, I remember that. So it's hard to balance that. But I will say that I don't really put myself out there as a sex icon. You know what I mean? Like the most amount of times that I put myself out there as a sex icon is when I go around saying, "Well, I'm a sex icon, right?" I'm just making fun of myself. But there's, you got the guys with the masks, and the guys with the who, when they're performing, everything they do is to be as like hot alpha male as possible. Like that's like, even when I'm narrating, half the time I'm like, well, I'm just me. Everyone's, I don't know, people say that I don't do that. Whatever, I meet the book wherever the book's at, but I don't think I like a Teddy voice that's my sexy man voice. But either way, so I think I
Yeah.
sidestep a lot of the possibilities. Like the guys who show up who are the cover models to some of these book events. You ever hear the story? There was this story of somebody at one of those. There was one that happened. I don't remember. It was like last year, but there was one that happened where like some fan like slipped a geotag into the back pocket of like one of the performers or something like that, and like, that's not okay. Like, what is going on there? Nobody's ever done anything like that. I've never had anybody do anything like inappropriate with me. I had one woman who wanted to do take a picture of your shoes I assume probably make some kind of comparison of like their favorite audiobook narrators and the size of the shoe. But like, whatever, they're just joking anyway. And so that one was like so low key. It wasn't in any, it was like, all right, sure, fine. That's fun. But I've never had anybody be any form of inappropriate with me.
That's great, because I kind of think of like, because you obviously have a wife and she's Japanese American, I hear, so woohoo on that. We have a little connection with your wife, but being married to a person that is sometimes worshipped in this way
Yeah.
in the romance
Yeah.
world, right, can be hard.
Yeah.
So I was
She's,
hoping and grateful
yeah,
that, yeah, that hasn't.
she's, she never said, I'm not comfortable. She's never said, don't do this. She's never said, stop. But there have been times where she's been like, you know what? And like, do you know how much I have to quiet in my mind, kind of thing, when she sees people talking about me in certain ways. But I think she trusts me. And I'm also pretty, there's no point. I don't like try to hide her. I've known people who have downplayed their marriage because they've been like, oh, it'll be bad for my I don't know why. I don't know why they would do that, but I've known people who have downplayed their relationships in their public personas as these sexy
Yeah, I'm
icons.
sure. Yeah,
But I've
yeah,
always just been like, nah, this is the truth. I'm not going to hide it. So,
yeah, yeah.
but
Oh,
there
I'm
is
sure
a
there's
fun.
an overplaying, right, or persona or more availability essentially for the fandom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but see, actually, I think it's the opposite. I think people, it's all a fantasy. You know what I mean? It's all a
Yes.
fantasy. Everybody knows that it's a fantasy. It's why sometimes people don't want to see my ugly mug, is because then it ruins the fantasy for them. I'm joking. Thank you. Thank you for that. No, I'm fine. I think I'm a okay looking guy. But I just I just I don't think that there's a fantasy. There's what's happening in the listener or the reader's mind, and then there's the reality of the situation. And when you I don't like to cross that boundary. Like, together, when it's book time then it's together. Let's pretend together for a second, and we'll have a fun time doing that. And then when it's the end and we're done, then we can also engage as people with each other outside of that. But I don't want to carry the fantasy over into real life, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's also why I love doing these interviews and getting to know the people behind it, because I want people to know the people behind the voices and the books and all the things too, right? That they're real people. And I don't want these geotagging kind of things to happen. That's not right. They're still people. I think people tend to forget that they're people. Celebrities also are people, people anyway. I don't think I need to beat that continually, but I appreciate you sharing. And I'm also curious about, I know you mentioned co-narrators and women, and oftentimes you're just cast separately, right? But there are people that you perhaps work with more often or you enjoy working with quite a
Yeah.
bit. Are you able to request or do any kind of, I guess request is the best way to put it.
Yeah, here's like, I have an author who is asking me to produce for them, and I do that every once in a while. I try not to. I will pretty much only do it for this author anymore, to be honest. But that's a situation where they'll be like, and who do you want? And I always go like, well, there's the old Teddy Hamilton, Jacob Morgan duo. We're a good crew together. But then there's like Teddy Hamilton and Samantha Brentmore work pretty good together. But then there'll be times where I'll be like, also, I just hung out, I just hung out with Gideon Frost. Do you know who Gideon Frost is? He's another narrator,
He was
but
at Spicy Reads.
he was spicy. Yeah, that's that. But he was also, I don't really know him. I haven't really hung out with him, but I hung out with him at Spicy Reads, and I was like, you are cool as shit. That man is a good dude. And I had a really nice conversation with him that then when I was talking to my author, I was like, what about Gideon Frost? And I listened to him. He's got a slightly more like a daddy kind of sound. He's got a very sort of slightly more mature sound, slightly deeper kind of guy. So he seems like a big dad to my little scamp. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. I like him. He sounds good. Let's do it. But it was because I was like, I just met him and I really had such a nice interaction with him and a good impression of him that I want to now work with him. Then there's people who I just work with all the time. I just finished doing 50 Shades of Grey, right? We just wrapped up the re-recording for the 15th anniversary of it, and they wanted to make it be a big, full production thing where all of the stories are told from specifically her first person point of view, but then they wanted somebody to step in. They wanted me to step in to be Christian Grey and all of the men in her life, and that was with me and Savannah Peachwood. And Savannah Peachwood, I've known since the beginning. I've just known her for that long, and we've gone through cycles where all of a sudden it's just me and Savannah Peachwood. We're just doing every other book. There's together, and that's all it is. And then I won't see her for a long time, and I won't work with her for a really long time, and then all of a sudden, suddenly I'm back on a hot streak of Savannah Peachwood books. But at this point we've been through so much, and I've had this kind of me and Muffy Newton, it's Erin Mallon. I don't think she hides that one. Me and Andy Arndt, me and Samantha Brentmore, me and Emma Wilder, me and Brooke Bloomingdale, me and CJ Bloom. There's a fair amount of people who I go through cycles where I do a lot of books with them, and then I do a lot of books with them, and then I do a lot of books with them. Me and Jacob Morgan, man. Teddy Hamilton and Jacob Morgan are practically I don't know what you'd call it, but we don't have
two awesome voices. Is that what you'd call it?
Well, voice but also just like that we've just been on a lot of books together, and I've had authors say that a Teddy Jacob book is a guaranteed like top selling book, like audiobook, and that's because we work really well together, and we've all been through it together one way or another. We've all had moments where we've failed each other. We've all had moments where we've been there for each other. We've all had moments where we've like just been like, hey, yeah, there you are again. Cool. And then there's other times where we've all been like trashed in a bar at 3 a.m. together. You know, it's like we've been in this for a long time. And then there's new people who come up. I just started doing a fair amount of Andy Eloise books. I don't know if you know Andy Eloise, but like
I do.
she's good. She's newer. She's somebody
Yeah.
who has hit more recently than me, but that's another thing. You want to talk about like hero worship. There's like a weird thing that will happen with new generations of narrators where like I always kind of thought of myself as, the up and comer, right? To Barbara Rosenblatt. I've just gotten into this business. I'm actually kind of working a lot. It's pretty nice. But then suddenly I run into people like Andy Eloise, who then she'll come at me and say things like I wanted to do audiobooks because of you or something, or you were the first person that made me think I could maybe do this, or like that kind of stuff, that then I go like, maybe this is what it's like to get old, because I still feel young and I still feel like I'm new. I'm in my 40s. That's still
Yeah.
young, but like I feel like I'm new to this thing. I haven't been doing it for. I guess I've been doing it for almost 15 years now, but like that doesn't feel like a lot of time. But then when you see new people coming in and they treat you the same way that the fans treat you, which I understand fans having that kind of relationship with you, because there's a bit of a separation between the performer and the audience. But when you're also a performer, it's weird to be in a situation where the people who you're performing with are acting like fans.
Well, I feel like you see it in every like profession too. You see it a lot with athletes, right? People that have watched that person growing up and then you're playing with them, or you're in
Yeah,
that same arena. So I kind of equate that, and yeah, I can imagine it. But I
I
love
mean,
that you're talking about this. Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I
Oh, I
was
was
just
going to
going to
say,
add
I love that you're talking about this
a
community.
little
There's like a delay. I think there's a
play.
delay
Yeah,
on our ends. Yeah. But there's this community of narrators that you're talking about, and I know with different narrators that I speak with, it's a very isolated job, right? You are recording in your own space and not necessarily with other people. Sometimes it is in a studio with other people, but a lot of times it's on your own and perhaps you're trading audio recordings and things. But you have these moments of being able to come together with people, whether it's at book events or maybe some people live closer to you and you are able to get together for fun or build those
yeah,
relationships outside of it. But can you talk a little bit more about the narrator community and how you've kind of fostered this and how you see
yeah.
people working
There
together?
used to be a time prior to COVID where there was studios, and there's still studios. You can still find some studios.
Yeah.
When it's a couple in LA, Dion Audio still does work, and Mosaic I think still does work, and like some of the publishers like Penguin Random House have their own studios. But like there was a time when like that's all there was just studios. You would go to studios, and when you went in, I remember in my early days with Dion Audio, they would always have lunch at the same time. It would allow for people to be as loud as they wanted during lunch without them bleeding into other people's recordings. But also like it would be like everybody would show up and there'd be like five different studios running with five different like narrators, and then they'd be like, all right, lunchtime, and then everybody would come down and like sit down and have their lunch together and talk. And like I think, did you interview Julia Whalen?
I did. Hmm.
There was this time when Julia Whalen was directing. She was directing for Brilliance Audio, and I was engineering, and we were working with this guy, McLeod Andrews, who was amazing. And the three of us were just like working together, and we were having this great time. And over like me and Julia became friends because she'd been on TV shows and I'd been on TV shows. So we kind of like talked about that a little bit. And then later when I really wanted to like start really pushing to become a narrator, an audiobook narrator, then she was like there to help me because we'd become friends working together. And she was able to introduce me to people who she was always working with because she's like queen of audiobooks. And it was always such a people forward thing. And there was very little connection to fans. But then the rise of social media and then COVID happened and all the studios shut down practically. There's still some that are doing it, but like if nothing else, it forced every narrator to then also get a home rig going. And so now you don't necessarily need the studios in order to have a career. And then with that, you have the rise of like the social media influencers slash narrators who, they do. I have a pretty good relationship with the fandom, but there's some people who like start with the fandom. I'm coming from
Yeah.
I'm coming from the studio and relationships with producers and casting directors and publishers and studio people, and through that meeting authors, and then through authors meeting the fans. Some people are doing it the opposite, where they're starting with the fans and the authors, and then the studio people are coming in and be like, "Oh, who's this person who's making all that splash on TikTok or whatever?" So but those people, I guarantee you, are having a much more lonely journey to the top because they're just casting themselves out into the sea of social media in hopes that somebody will see them and say "good girl" to them. So it's like it's a hard.
It's a fascinating world with social media and the COVID, and things
Yeah,
have changed drastically. I'd love to talk about the books themselves, like your process,
I
your
think
selection process. Maybe we'll start there of, okay, I'm sure there are tons of projects that come your way. And how do you choose? Because obviously you need to prioritize yourself and
yeah,
your time with your wife and friends and family,
yeah.
right? So how do you
There,
pick your projects?
there was a time for a very long time where I just said yes to anything because I'm a big fan of getting to know people. You know what I mean? Like some new author reaches out to me and wants me to read their book. Sure, why not? Let's see what this is about. And sometimes it's been, it's just kind of come and gone. And other times it's been like a huge book that started with just like a random author being like, "Hey," and like I'd never even heard of
Yeah.
them before, but then the book ended up being a gigantic success. But I've always just said,
Fourth Wing
yeah,
was a giant unknown success.
well,
Not that Rebecca hadn't been writing before, but anyway,
right.
yeah. Sorry,
Well,
continue.
but then there's that. This is also another reason why of things. What do I say yes to? How do I say yes? Because as things got
Yeah.
more, as Teddy became more popular, then not only did I stop really having any space to say yes to Andrew Eiden books, which are the like, just more mainstream, but also because Teddy's the one that sells clicks the most, then like people don't really always think of me as Andrew Eiden books. And I have to kind of go to some of my friends in the industry and be like, "You got just like a regular like nonfiction book about the American Southwest? That would be great right now. I would love to just take a break right now. I'm so tired of cum and blood and like obsession." But so
Palette
so I did.
cleanser.
But also, when you say, yeah, Fourth Wing, Rebecca Yarros, I've been working for Rebecca Yarros for years now, and
Yeah.
I'll always say yes to a Rebecca Yarros book. She's one of the early adopters of Teddy Hamilton, I think. Same thing with like Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, to be honest. And Elle Kennedy was one of the first people where like I what's the guy's name from the deal from off campus? I forget what his name is. Dean? Is he Dean?
I have to admit, I have not read it yet. It's been on my TBR and on my to watch since it came out on Prime Video, but I have not read it yet.
Well,
So
it's,
I can't
you know
answer
that
that for you.
but there's times where there's a book that comes along where people will say, well, like the
Yeah.
name of that Nico from God of Fury, or Junior from Caught Up, or Zaid Meadows from Haunting Adeline, or Zayden from Fourth Wing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these different guys. Where there's times where books will come, but then there's times where books come and the main character becomes the person that people are like talking about. And the first experience I ever had of that was with the deal, was with Off Campus, because she did something. She made some guy that's like that's just killer main characters. I mean, if you think about who's the Austen, no, Jane Austen, who's the woman who writes like Sense and Sensibility and Emma and like all of those,
Jane Austen. Mm-hmm.
Jane Austen. There's
Jane
some,
Austen, yeah. Mm-hmm.
who's the main, there's like some guy named, I think his name is Darby,
Mr.
Mr.
Darcy?
Darby, Mr. Darcy, yeah.
Mr. Darcy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Darcy, where it's like it's just a dude that was just written in such a way that everybody just fell in love. You don't even remember what the stories are or
Yeah.
the turn of events that took place, but you remember Mr. Darcy. I don't remember all the shit that happened between Carrie and Mr. Big, you know what I mean? But I do know that I remember Mr. for how frustrating he was, and also how wonderful it was when you got his warmth and like, you know what I mean? It's like those kinds of things that
Yeah.
that the guy, I think his name was Dean. I don't remember. I'll have to look that up. But in in the deal, why am I talking about that? I don't remember why I'm talking about that. But
Well, I think we were just talking about the big books and why you pick, and you just never
oh
know, right? What
yeah, you don't.
what
Yeah,
book
you
will
don't.
hit and become this crazy thing. And while we're talking about Rebecca Yarros books, I'm curious, do you cry? Because her books always make me bawl, and if I were a narrator, I would not be able to narrate.
Rebecca Yarros.
Like I can't get through the book in a decent amount of time.
I have said this many times. Rebecca Yarros is a sadist. Rebecca Yarros she drinks your tears. She has learned how to efficiently extract your sorrow and have it leak the orifice for her enjoyment. It's all for her enjoyment. I guarantee you that. No,
That's
she
why
yeah,
I tell people don't tell her what not to do because she will then do it and break our hearts.
God. Oh my God. Yeah, but it's like but also that's what you need. You know, they always say, you know, I went to theater school. I studied theater and it's like pathos and logos and ethos and like what's the thing where you like a tragedy catharsis, right? No, is it catharsis?
Yeah.
Where it's a
Yeah, where
purging.
you kind of like heal through the. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we carry so much emotion in
Yeah.
our lives that we don't really have anywhere to put them. And sometimes if you're sad about your mom or you're sad about, you know, something, you're sad about a breakup or a divorce or something like that, like there's no place for you to put that energy because you got to like live and you got to keep like doing stuff. Like but so then when when a story comes along that gives you permission to just like empty it all out, that that it's important to do that, and Rebecca Yarros is very good at helping you do that.
I'm a crier already, but
Yeah,
man, does she just, yeah.
yeah.
So
I saw.
does it take you like double the time, or
Yeah,
maybe
I
you
have
don't shed
go
tears.
if you
My
go to
husband does
my
not shed tears.
if you go to my Instagram and you scroll down, I don't know, like sometime last year, there's the last letter is a book that she wrote that's a beautiful
Oh,
tale. It has a lot of different. There's a lot of reasons to cry during that book. Some of them more expected
yes,
than
there
others.
are.
And but when you but so somebody was talking about it, and I have like a fan group. I don't know if they still meet anymore. I never talk to them anymore, but there used to be a fan group on Facebook that I would talk to, that I one time made them. I went into my outtakes because I know that I sobbed uncontrollably when
Oh,
recording that, and I had all of my
uh-huh.
off takes in on my computer, and so I just like went through it, and I was like, okay, I know it was during this time, and I like went through all of these files, and then I found like me over and over again during this one moment, just like sobbing, and then being like trying to get through it. I think maybe we could do this to fuck. You know, it's just like it was just constantly stopping and breaking down and sobbing and being, and I kept saying, Jesus fucking Christ. I kept saying, Jesus fucking Christ. It's because like I was just, I couldn't keep going because it made me cry so hard.
Oh, Rebecca, it's not just us. Okay, I'm going to ask another of your process questions because
Yeah.
what do you do to prepare? Do you read in advance? Do you read a little bit? I know everybody has kind of a different
Yeah.
process as they go into book preparation.
Yeah.
What is your
That end
process?
on the book, but I will say that I almost never do a full read of a book because you don't really need to. I don't really need to, at least. It's what I will do is I want to know what the arc of the story is, and I want to know who the characters are. I want to know any secrets. I don't want to be surprised by anything in the middle of the book. So I want to know that when the bad guy first shows up, I want to know that that's going to ultimately be the bad guy, just so that I'm aware of it. And so there's a lot of like that, which usually in the back in the day it used to be more skimming through the book to just kind of know what, okay, this is happening. Once I know sort of where they're at, I go, okay, so now this is all just like kind of meet cute stuff. This is all just kind of like I can walk through this when I'm recording it. I don't need to like read every single word of this. But then anytime they're talking to their parents, I want to know what their parents are saying to them or like that kind of thing. And that's how I usually go through it. But I won't, I'll decide what characters I'm gonna do once I'm in it. You know what I mean? I'll decide what voice to give them, and I don't need to like pre-plan that. And then the other thing that will sometimes happen is where I realize that the author is really doing something unique, that I go, I need to get this author's voice in my head because I don't understand how they want, like, I don't know how to make their words come to life, so I'll need to know that. But that usually doesn't take that long. That just means I need to just like sit and actually like read through a little bit to get a sense of like, okay. But then there's also times when it's like it's an author I've worked with a million times, and it's pretty standard romance, and like I've been doing these for 12 years now, so I don't, it's not, the chances are I'm going to know exactly what's happening because I've spent enough time performing these that like I don't need to go through and give this a whole thing. I just need to show up on the day and be present in the moment.
We could talk forever, but I'm going to ask one last thing before we dive into some quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there a book, perhaps it's the one that we talked about, or the ones that we talked about, that people come up to you most to talk about, or perhaps a line or lines that people are like, can you say this out loud for us?
You know what? I have a cameo. Do you know this? That I have a cameo on Cameo. I I usually have it shut down because whenever I open it up for requests, it usually fills up my max like within by the end of the day. So I try to, I just don't have the time, and there's like a time limit on doing cameos. Anyway, the point is those cameos, people will say, "Hey, my wife is a huge fan of yours. She. loves your Nico from God of Fury. Will you just like wish her a happy birthday but do it like Nico? Or hey, my best friend is obsessed with haunting Adeline and Zaid Meadows. Will you, just tell her, like, give her a pep talk and tell her to like keep up a step of her lip because she's going through a really bad breakup right now, and just let her know that, like, but tell her that she's a good girl, and like maybe call her Little Mouse, and like that. I get that. Those are the two biggest ones. Every once in a while, Junior, but the two biggest ones that I get, and this is where we're talking about the people. It's not about the book so much. It's that Zaid Meadows and Zayden too from Fourth Wing, but Zaid Meadows is big time, and also Nico Sokolov or Sokolov. I forget what his last name is, but
a lot of the dark romance.
oh yeah, but that's because they want if it's Zaid Meadows, then they'll want me to just be like super aggressive with them and be like, girl, this is your birthday and I want you to fucking get up out of that bed and go celebrate yourself because you're so good, that kind of thing, and then be like, yeah, I know you will, good girl. Or if it's Nico, then it's the opposite. They want like unhinged kind of like, hey, I don't know, maybe we'll just go kill somebody. It's like those are the two guys though. Nico from God of Fury and Zaid Meadows from Cat and Mouse game, asking me to either say good girl to them or asking me to call them Little Mouse. Lotus Flower every once in a while if it's Nico. And then I'd say a close third is going to be Zayden from Fourth Wing.
What is the request there? Is there like a specific?
It'll be the same thing. It'll be the same thing. Like
or
all violence. Will you
okay.
call violence, or like will you? But just like kind of. It's more just
tone,
like give the tone, which really is more just like give like a dark romance or a very like possessive male romance or very protective male romance, type of message.
Looking for violence, are we? Is that the? Yeah. Well, all right. Are we ready for some quick fire questions?
Let's do it.
All right. I think I have four. This should be pretty quick. What is the best piece of advice you were given in your career?
There are no emergencies in audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've used that in a bad way too. There's an easy way for you to then be like, I am 2 months late. Whatever, there's no emergencies in audiobooks. But there aren't, in the sense that it's really easy to become so caught up in the production of it that you forget that you're supposed to be reading a book and like kind of enjoying the read of the book to make it so that the listeners will like it. So that's one thing, is there's no emergencies in audiobooks.
Do you like to read outside of your job? Because obviously your job is to read out loud. If so, what are you reading right now?
I used to.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah. I'm trying to listen to Dungeon Crawler Carl right now because I hear it's really fun, and I also hear that whoever the main guy is who did the voices for it, like the main narrator for it.
Did a great job. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember him either. But that he was like amazing. That he did like an amazing job.
Yeah.
I think
all the voices.
I think he's also the producer that he maybe not. I might be wrong about that, but either way, yeah, I heard it was amazing, and I heard that he was amazing. So I want to listen to it because I want to enjoy it, and B, like I once listened to the Bobaverse, We Are Legion, which was a fun little sci-fi, wild little sort of like Project Hail Mary style kind of story read by Ray Porter. And I'd never heard of Ray Porter before that. I just listened to it because I wanted to listen, because I heard the audiobook was really good, and then I listened to it, and like Ray Porter was like a fucking amazing in it, and then like when I met Ray Porter, and like I've hung out with Ray Porter a couple times now, and it's always like I remember being like a fan because he read that book so cool. So like I do every once in a while, but I suppose
Jeff Hayes.
Jeff Hayes. But I suppose the thing that draws me in are great performances. Whereas before, I used to want to read it because I wanted the story. Now I want to listen to it because I hear it's an amazing experience.
I just read House on the Cerulean Sea with my kid. And that was super
Who
fun and
narrated that?
exciting. Daniel Henning did. Daniel Henning?
Huh? Think I know.
That was my first time listening to him. He did a great job with all the different voices and loved it.
Daniel.
My kid loved it. And it was a fabulous story. Mm-hmm. What is one thing on your bucket list that you would like to tackle next? And it obviously doesn't have to be, book related or job related.
Yeah. I don't know. I've got a lot of the things that I want. I don't know that I have a very extensive bucket list at this point. I'm pretty happy with my life.
Huh?
I'd like to take an entire year off. But
that would be amazing.
I don't think I can. But like, yeah, don't like college professors have like, what do they call those? Sabbaticals.
Sabbatical?
Yeah, I want to do a sabbatical. And like I just want to like travel. I just want to walk the earth. But I think right now I'm like in my early 40s. I'm building something for myself. I'm building out my later years right now. So now's the time to just kind of strike while the iron's hot, I think. So I'm not really on my bucket list at the moment.
Someday I keep saying I want to eat my way through Japan. That's on my bucket list for
I've done that.
My later in life, maybe when okay, we need to swap some notes on there.
That's
amazing.
So my wife grew up in Japan, or she grew up in Michigan from age like 2 to 7 or 9 or something like that, and then she moved to Japan because her mom was Japanese. Her dad lived in Japan for a really long time. They got married. They had my wife Sarah, and then he got transferred to Michigan for his job. So then they came over here for a little while. So she like was born in Japan. Then she lived a little bit like her early years in Michigan. Then her teenage years and like into early adulthood in Japan. But when I married her, then my father, who was a travel agent, was like, I want to go to Japan with Sarah. I want to go to Japan and like see it the way that she knows it. And because he always had such a passion for like really understanding a place that he traveled to. And what we did was we flew down to what I don't remember what's the one in the bottom. It's like Osaka or one of those ones that's like real south. Okinawa. We've been to Okinawa. Her sister lived in Okinawa for really long. But that's like Okinawa is like
the island,
and it's closer to China than it is to Japan, practically. Yeah, whatever. It's like it's like we're Hiroshima and like those kinds of things. It's like down in the south. It's
okay. Osaka is by there. Yeah, yeah,
mm-hmm. yeah. And so we started there, and then either buses or trains. We like just made our way north, stopping in all these different places for an evening, and like had like every different kind of food. Lots and lots of convenience stores though, because Lawson's is great. But
that was my favorite, or my kids' favorite thing when we went. We saw all these amazing things, and they loved the convenience stores, which is fine.
They're great though. They're great. Yeah.
They are. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. All right. Last question is, what is one thing you love doing just for you?
I suppose I like gardening. I like carpentry. If I ever have like a project, if it's like a home improvement type of thing, or I love to do those because I have, I have competency in doing stuff, and so I like to flex it every once in a while. Here I am at this theater. I don't just have random chairs on my wall. I'm in the backstage of a theater right now. Because I was helping build the set for. There's a junior theater program putting up a musical, and they needed help building the set, and so there's a couple dads that were helping, and I know this location, so I can make sure that I was mainly focused on helping them get railing and safety things put into place for the stairs that they built, just so that none of the kids will hurt themselves. But kind of fun. I like doing that kind of stuff.
Well, where can people connect with you further? Because I know people are going to be like, oh, I need to go follow Teddy, Andrew, both.
Yeah.
Where can
I
people
think on
find you?
TikTok, I almost never go on TikTok. I have not figured out TikTok, but I am like Teddy Hamilton 13 or something ridiculous like that. And really, my main
And we'll
focus
have all
is
the
my main focus is the main place. I don't even go to Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore because I just wanted to limit my online space. But Instagram, I'm on narrated by Teddy Hamilton or Andrew Eiden on Instagram. Both of those are me. I don't have somebody else running those things for me, which means I might not ever respond, but also it's me when I do. And then Cameo's a great spot for us to commit, and I try to do it at least consistently so that I'm constantly up, but I think there's a long wait list for my cameos, but also every single time I open up, there's this one woman who, Nika, hello Nika, if you're watching, who has
You got to
done it.
call out.
Well, she does it every time. And every single time she does it, she goes, "It's me again." I'm like, "Well, how's it going? How's your realtor tests going?" Because that's what she's always saying.
Someday you're going to meet her in person.
Yeah. We'll see. But so I'd say those are my main spots. Instagram and Cameo are probably the best spots for. Yeah.
And like I said, we'll have those links so that, people can find you. Anything else you want to leave with our audience before we head out?
One of the things that I say to up and coming narrators is don't worry so much. You're great. You know what I mean? What you should be concentrating on is the story. See the images in your head. See what you want and enjoy the ride. But don't worry about whether or not you're doing it right or not. Don't worry about if people are going to be annoyed by something that you're super hyper fixated on, but you really don't need to be. Half the people aren't even going to even notice it. Just move forward with confidence. You got this. And I think that the more that I live on this planet, the more I think most people need that. I think that's the reason why good girl is such a common kink for people, is because nobody knows anything, but we think that we're the only ones who don't know anything. So you're doing great. You're doing great. Just keep going. That's what I would say.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We all need that encouragement.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure, and I know we've gotten a lot of your time. So I appreciate you, and thank you for all of us that are audiobook listeners that, that's the way we can actually read. So read as much as we do with all of our busy lives. So we appreciate you, and thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. This was fun. Thank you very much.